So today we have a new drone that we're going to review, and it's actually from Ruko. And we haven't done a drone from Ruko in a long time. It's actually been like 2.5 years, and that was the Ruko Gym 2, which that kind of has like a cult following. But we have a new one today, which is the F11 Pro, which I'm kind of excited to do. And not only because it's a new drone, but of course because it's been 2.5 years since I've done anything from Ruko, and you would hope in the 2.5 years they've made a heck of a lot of improvements. And with that being said, we should acknowledge just how sick this little drone really looks. I mean, opening it up here, it is a stylish little drone. You can see from the Gym 2 kind of comparison, much more modern, nice looking. It's got these dandy little lights up front here, which do actually light up, so it's going to look pretty sick in the night or in the dusk time as well. And the drone itself has things we like the 3-axis gimbal plus EAS. It can take 6K photos, 4K 30 video, built-in remote ID, has smart functions like GPS follow, circle, waypoints, cruise control, has a camera zoom and vertical shooting mode. And the remote also has some really nice upgrades. It's multicolor, has a little screen on the front, has this really soft touch on here. It's really nice. Has a cable connection, so we don't have to worry about that goofy Wi-Fi connection to the drone. It's supposed to have a 10,000 foot range because of that. Of course, we'll test that out in a little bit. There's one thing I don't like with this remote, and I'll talk about that in a minute when we talk about this remote. And I always say, all the functions in the world don't mean crap. If it flies funny, it goes crooked, it goes flying off into a tree, or toilet blows on your first flight. So let's take a look and see what Ruko's done here. And the manual says to check interference first, and if there's interference or it doesn't seem stable, then do a compass calibration. And one thing that Ruko has done is they added this little symbol here on the remote with this little interference kind of diagram on it. I really didn't know what that meant before, but if that level gets above 120, it indicates excessive interference, and they suggest that we manually calibrate it or move to a different location. Now, if it gets above 180, it will force calibration. But if your interference stays above this is one thing I found out earlier, that if it stays above 180 and you calibrate and it's 180 again, it'll immediately go into calibration mode and you'll be stuck in an endless loop. But if the level is above 180, you got to go to another location or move or do something because it's just too much to fly, which is actually pretty smart if you have interference and that could cause toilet boiling or something or some out of control flight. So that's really good on their point. I like that. I am going to do a quick compass calibration and a gyro calibration, just to be safe. You can enter the calibration mode by simply pressing this button, which is nice. They pulled it out here instead of having to dig through menus, and just push the button here on the remote and it will show up. And horizontal. And vertical. There we go. And it asks us for a gyro, which is nice. And there we go, should be ready to fly. Now, it is a little bit windy today, but that's always a good test. It's not super bad, but up towards a 10 mile an hour, so hopefully we'll see how this does. Well, from right here, this looks pretty awesome, I have to say. It is sitting right square in place. Tiny little bit of bobbing up and down, but again, you got to remember, we do have a 10 mile an hour wind here kind of blowing at us, so. We just missed our peak colors a little bit ago. We were waiting for this drone, so not the greatest colors here, but hopefully you can get some idea of what this camera looks like itself. It's doing a nice gimbal roll here. It looks pretty cinematic. All these camera settings are in auto, which is just fine for most of our shots. So I always like to go by this pond to double check an orbit, just to give us a point of consistency to see if the controllability is good with the sticks here. Still don't have any connection issue. It's looking really clean. We're sitting at that 1,000 foot number, but it looks really clean. I don't notice anything as far as breakup or anything. So far, yeah, the sticks don't seem bad. They seem pretty responsive. We did have a drone where the lag was so bad, and that makes it really tough to do anything when it's laggy, like by a second or something. So I'm struggling a little bit to do an orbit. The sticks are a little bit touchy for my fingers. I mean, able to get it close here, but sticks are really sensitive. I wish there was a way we could detune these sticks. I am able to do it. We are getting a decent orbit here. Just going to have to work at it just a little more. Going back and forth here, that's always one of those things to see how the gimbal goes. And remember, this has the 3-axis gimbal plus EIS. Going back and forth, not bad. A little bit of horizon tilt here. I think there's probably a little bit. Let it stabilize a little bit, see if you guys see anything, but it doesn't look too bad. Maybe a tiny bit, but not bad at all. We've just been flying around here getting some footage, and it just is going to do our first automated return to home. It just kicked in. So first we want to see kind of where it lands, get a little feel for the precision of the GPS, and I can hear it, it's right here above us. And of course, I'll put the battery life up here so you can see how close we get to the actual battery life that they said we were going to get. It went right straight above us, and it's sat maybe about 50, 60 feet up or so, and it's sitting there hovering. I do remember reading that in the manual, now that I think about it, that it will go above you and sit and wait for you to tell it to land. That's an interesting thing that you don't see very often, where it comes to right above you and then just hovers above you instead of continuing and finishing that return to home. And I had to stop it because it was going to land right on top of the camera, which is probably 10 or 12 feet away from me here. So precision wise, it's going to be about 10 feet off, but of course I don't want to crash into my camera as well. I'd have to go run over there. So I'm manually just going to adjust it so we can land here on our pad or close to it, but about 10 feet off or so before. Man, it is really getting windy all of a sudden, so hopefully we don't get a lot of wind in our microphone. But now I'm going to flip the battery, which is one nice thing. It comes with 2 batteries. So I'm going to flip the battery out, and we're going to try a couple of these quick functions, see how those work. And the one thing I mentioned before about the remote while we're waiting for this to connect, I cannot see a thing in this remote control right now. It's completely dark. But if you're going to rely on the backup for this screen, it looks black. It looks like it's off, honestly. I can't even tell that it's on. It is nice and stable, even in this wind. I mean, I got to give Ruko credit for that. It's really nice, real nice. Okay, so first one, let's do our follow and just see what that looks like. We'll take a little walk around here and just see what it does. See if it likes that now. So it looks like it does. And so far, looks like it's coming behind me here. It's following real nice. Let's take a little walk sideways, see how the side track works here. There we go. It's actually doing a pretty good job keeping us in the center. So many times these GPS models don't do a very good job of keeping us in the center. We can kind of walk away from it, but this is tough on it. Now I'm going to walk away and see if it catches back up. There it is, backing up to try to get us in the center again. But hey, not doing bad, keeping us in the center. Doing a good job with the follow. I think this would do a real nice job. It'd be nice to see if Ruko would actually put a visual follow on here. But boy, I tell you what, this is a really accurate or real nice for a GPS follow from Ruko. So I gotta give them credit, real nice here. I think this will do a real nice job. All right, so next let's do a circle function and see what that looks like here. Okay, so it looks like we're right above us here. Let's see what that does. And flight around. There we go. And there is our orbit. That's doing a nice consistent. It's actually kind of fast. I'm going to see if I can intervene here and see if we can go a little bit slower. And we can. Good. I like that when they have the ability to change what the orbit does while it's flying instead of just canceling the orbit. So that's nice. So I'm going to try backing away a little bit as well. It's a good looking orbit. It's real stable. I've got it set to real slow. And it's doing a nice job keeping us in the center here. You let me know, what does that look like? Does it look stable and kind of clear, or is it looking jittery or anything funny? Overall, it's doing a pretty good job. I think that would be a passable orbit. Let's just see what the zoom looks like, and we'll see if it zooms just on the visual display or if it truly records that way as well. So here we go, zoom in. We'll have to check when we get back in the studio if that recorded on the card or not. And the next one I'm going to do is that waypoint, and I never know if people really use this much for a recreational use like this. I can see when you're doing some maybe commercial stuff, but you let me know. I'll test it to make sure that it works, but let me know, do you guys use the waypoints at all for anything? And if so, what do you use it for? I'm interested to know. So, route planning. All right. Okay. And let's see what it does here. See if it actually does it. And it did back up and is turning. And there it did. Went all those and it ended up above us. So looks like the waypoint worked as well. Nice. So for some reason, the record keeps going off on the remote here, and I'm not a big fan of that. I wish it would stop it because I never know when it's actually recording or not. I don't know if it's automatically going off when the function ends or if it's going off just randomly. I'm not sure, but it is what it is. And we just did get our second return to home here on this battery, and I've tried to cancel it. Not exactly sure, I'm probably doing something wrong here, but it says to cancel the return to home, and I do not know how to make it happen. Maybe this way. Well, it still wants to do its return to home. So, of course, with this battery, I'm going to know it's going to come down and it's just going to sit above us. So let's go ahead and bring this down. See where it would land this time if I just go straight down. So indeed, it was going to come down again on top of the camera or the car here, and I didn't want to hit that. So looks like it's going to be about 10 feet off again for that landing, but it is what it is. I would imagine that if it ran out of battery that it would land, but I'm not the biggest fan of it just sitting there hovering, but I guess it allows you to take control. So, and before we go, I wanted to mention that Ruko was nice enough to send along a power adapter, a 65 watt power adapter for charging. So if I wanted to charge batteries in between what I'm doing here, I can plug that right into a power bank and give us a little bit more boost than we would get if we were just charging to some little 15 watt or something like that. So give us a little more power, charge that just a little bit faster. So thank you, Ruko, for sending that along so we can check that out. And of course, if you guys are interested, I'll put links in the description so you can go check that out as well. With that, let's head back into the studio and finish this video out. Hey, thanks for sticking around. Really do appreciate it. And before I forget, if you're enjoying this video so far or learned something you didn't know before, take a moment and click that like button. I really do appreciate it. After reviewing the footage and thinking about the flights we just took, there are some things I like and some things I think could use a little improvement. So let's talk about it. So first, my likes. First, the hover and stability was great. We ended up flying when the wind was gusting around 10 to 12 miles an hour, and it handled it well. This does make sense since the drone is a bit heavier at 364 grams, meaning you'll need to register it with the FAA regardless if you fly recreationally or Part 107 here in the US. Next, the 4K 30 video looked great, and I didn't notice any micro jitter in the image or shaky footage, although I did see some small artifacts once in a while when we were recording and moving a little quicker, and this is likely due to the underwhelming bitrate of 35 megabits per second. Next, the range connection was good. Never had any breakup or freezing of the FPV display, and our control in our VLOS flights was always good. No hesitation or anything, so good there. Also, I love the little real-time interference indication on the app. If you're flying areas that might have signal interference issues, it's nice to know this before you launch and have flight stability issues. This might keep you out of trouble once in a while, and for this reason, I think it is a standout feature. There are some things that need some work as well, and first, the remote display does go dim after a while. Don't know why it does this, it just goes dark. And it doesn't really affect the flights that I take because I use the app exclusively, but it shouldn't just do that for no reason. Also, the battery life at 21 to 22 minutes to a forced return to home isn't the greatest. Now, don't get me wrong, we did have some wind, so it might end up a little bit longer in calmer conditions, but the rated time is 35 minutes. And until the manufacturers stop giving us inflated flight time specs, I will keep complaining that the flight time does not match what is advertised. Imagine the good PR the brands would have if they would spec a flight time and we would consistently beat it in our test instead of not hitting it even close. Just saying. Also, the video just randomly stopped while we were flying, and I found myself having to do moves over because I noticed the video was no longer recording halfway through the flight. This comes as a great little kit with the drone, remote, 2 batteries, spare props, a dandy custom case, owner's manual, a nice instruction card, USB charging cables, connection cables for different devices, and extra screws for the props. And I always ask for an exclusive discount for the Alien Drones viewers, and Ruko did oblige. And I'll put that discount code up here that you can use on their site. Now, I found this code to be a little bit hit or miss, but go ahead and try it and see if it works for you. Might save you some cash. Now, this drone is available on Ruko's site and on Amazon, and of course, I'll leave links in the description below, so you can go check this out if you want more information and the current pricing. So my thoughts overall: this is a stylish drone, it flies decent, takes good video, and if you can get the 2 battery kit for a good price, I think it is a viable option worth considering for sure. So those are my honest thoughts, but I want to know what you think. Leave me your comments below, really appreciate it. Till next time, good flying.